32 picks, 32 pivotal decisions for NFL franchises. We take over the 2024 NFL Draft tonight with our consensus mock. Hang around and subscribe to the channel if you're new. It's the IBT podcast coming right at you.
Cause I've been in tune, out of touch, coming off the bench, trying to shake the funk, check your stat line, see who's up, that over under hit too clutch.
And I'm trying to avoid getting carried away with the jet sweep, sleeping on a trick play, predicting all of my moves like they seen every play. So I'm running it back, head down, get out of my way, and it's for the law with only one thing to do. I guess I'll say a prayer and put it all on the line for you, what they don't know, something they haven't seen. I find a gap on the screen and hit them right in between. Yeah, I got it, and I got it. Just one thing to say, yeah, what they don't know, something they haven't seen. I'm off that mean Joe Green, it got me fading between. Yeah, I got it, and I got it. The In Between Fantasy Football Podcast.
All right. It is Tuesday, April 23rd, 2024, and the road to the NFL Draft began 12 weeks ago in Mobile, Alabama, and it takes place this Thursday in the home of Eminem, the home of Megatron's Weed Farms, Detroit Rock City, baby. We make our best guesses for it tonight. My name is Seth Woolcock, and I'm fucking jacked up to be here. Huge week for the company, IBT. We have Hoove, who's heading out to Detroit to keep his head on a swivel for some NFL draft content. Myself, Elliot, and our NASCAR team, we're going to be heading out to Dover later this weekend. And tonight, I'm joined by our ace in the back pocket. Some call him Spreadsheet Jesus. I just call him my friend, Scott Rynier. Scott, how we doing tonight, brother?
I'm good. I'm happy the draft is here. Finally. Yeah, it's going to be fun. Just, draft round, draft capital, landing spot. It's 3 columns in my spreadsheet, but man, it makes a huge difference. So we'll enter the new phase where we can actually start, at least me, start making some projections because I'll know who's on what team. Exciting times.
Exciting time. The conjecture on Twitter can cease for a little bit. We can all be on the same team again. Also slotted in tonight is a man who owns about 5 companies, I think has 6 or 7 kids, and one day is considering running for the governor of the great state of Texas, Mr. Eric Romoff. Eric, how we doing tonight, brother?
Seth staying steady with the 2 truths and a lie format to my intro. I'm doing well. You will never see me on a political ballot at any point in the future, but I am equally as stoked that the draft is finally here, right? I mean, up until this point, we're all just kind of guesstimating based on, profile, based on draft capital, where these guys might end up, and all the pieces come together starting on Thursday. So it is a huge, huge jumping off point to get that visibility and really start thinking about how these guys apply in practice as opposed to in theory.
100% agreed with you. Tonight on the program, we're keeping it tidy. We're going to go back in the day. We're going to look at some of the first rounds from the last couple drafts, and then we're also going to be previewing this year's draft, do our mock draft. We got some heater trades in there as well. I'm happy to dish out for you guys. Also joining us tonight, the man in the chair, Yinzer legend, distinguished IUP alumnus, producer Kyle Scott. Kyle, how are we doing tonight, brother?
I'm doing fantastic, Seth. Thank you very much for asking. I don't know about you 3, but I am ready to rock and roll.
Yeah, boy.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We are ready. And so is the IBT family. We appreciate Dee hanging out with us tonight. What's up, Dee? Thanks so much for making time for us. We got Albert. Good evening, IBT. Good evening, Albert, as always, man. We got Andrea. She's ready for the NFL draft, saying hi, everyone. Good to see you, Andrea. We appreciate you. We got Rachel stopping in as well. We appreciate Rachel, as always, one of the members of our IBT media staff. Guys, huge week for the channel, for the company. As we mentioned, we're hoping to celebrate 1,000 subscribers this weekend. We're about 50 short right now. So we're going to be doing some giveaways. We have some NASCAR ones we're going to be doing on Sunday. If you guys are into NASCAR, just let us know in the channel right now, whether you're in the chat, whether you're watching this the non-live version. Let us know in the comments that you are subscribed. Kyle will jot you down as being part of our NASCAR giveaway we have this weekend. And then, Eric, we also have a couple more giveaways coming. You have a couple jerseys for Frank Gore jersey for 1,000 subscribers for the football fans as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Signed. This is actually a good designation that someone called out in the chat last time. A signed 49ers Frank Gore jersey. It wasn't one of his multiple stops down the road. It is the team that he is most associated with that's going out the door once we cross that 1,000 sub threshold. And we also have a signed Taysom Hill, the utility knife himself. We're actually keeping that one tucked away for a giveaway to do with draft night out. But a lot of cool prizes going out the door here soon.
Yes, first 100 tickets sold to draft night out. They'll get in that Taysom Hill giveaway raffle. And we're right about 60 tickets right now. So you got about 40 shots left. It's filling up quick. Make sure you guys are getting in there. And all right, let's go ahead. Let's get to the NFL draft here with a little bit of back in the day.
They ain't make them like this way back in the day. Took a shot, couldn't miss way back in the day. Couldn't predict how it could all change. Don't you ever forget how far we came. How far we came. Never forget how far we came. How far we came. Remember how it was way back in the day.
The thing I love about the IBT podcast is like we're kind of like your delinquent next door neighbor friends, but we're also kind of like your next door neighbor like dad figure that wants to give you a little bit of advice along the way and like look back and reflect on some things. That's what we do here back in the day. We're gonna be looking at the last 3 years first rounds quickly, just to have some notes, some takeaways. Last year's like honestly, right now, it still looks like a pretty stacked draft. You had CJ Stroud, Anthony Richardson, Bijan Robinson going in those top 10 picks. Jahmyr Gibbs, who maybe people considered a reach going at 12, no longer probably considered a reach. But Eric, still a lot of wide receivers. I think that we're still waiting to see the best from in this class. Jackson Smith-Njigba maybe taking that next step. Quentin Johnston. Like it feels like in every draft class, there's going to be a couple wide receivers that don't hit right away, and we need to keep that in mind even this year.
Yeah, in every year we need to keep that in mind. I think last year's draft class was unique in terms of the wide receiver position, just in terms of how those three guys that had very different arcs, right? Like Jordan Addison came in, immediately became a significant touchdown threat in Minnesota. We're expecting some regression there. Zay Jones was a huge focal point of this offense, really from the get-go, like a volume king. And then on the other side of the spectrum, you've got JSN, who kind of has to sit behind two very talented receivers and wait for his turn. And then Quentin Johnson, who can't catch the ball and should not have been a first-round pick. So a bit of a roller coaster ride the first round in terms of the wide receivers.
Yeah, and Scott, looking back at the 2022 NFL draft, I was actually out there in Las Vegas. It was a great scene. Dude, it like looking at this class and the previous classes, like there's a lot of question marks around the quarterbacks. Like Kenny Pickett no longer starter in that last draft we just saw. We have questions around Bryce Young. So like even though we're excited about this new crop of quarterbacks, especially when we look at this 21 draft that had Zach Wilson, Trey Lance, Justin Fields, Mac Jones, all with another team already. I think that's something we need to keep in mind is there's going to be some quarterback busts this year.
Yeah, I was going to say, if you want to stay excited about the 2024 quarterback prospects, don't look at 2023. Well, 2023, I mean, we've got CJ Stroud
and A-Rich,
hopefully, but do not look at 2022 and do not look at 2021. What's funny is there's basically, I think, if you look at both those drafts, I mean, the 2021 draft, we're down to one starter from the group of quarterbacks taken in the top 15. There's one that's still starting. I mean, you never thought that the 2022 draft, and you never thought anything would be worse than the 2022 draft where you got Pickett, and then you've got all these people that all the mock drafters were like, oh, top 5, Malik Willis, and they went in like the 3rd round.
Yeah.
But until Kenny Pickett lost his job, it was going to be the same. One starter.
Yeah.
I mean, the fall of the 2021 QB draft class has been seismic.
Yes.
We've got Trevor Lawrence still going, and then we've got Mac Jones traded for a bag of unsalted peanuts to the Denver Broncos, and Justin Fields is a backup. Mac Jones is a backup. Trey Lance is a backup. It's just it's crazy. So, but not this year. This year they're going to be great.
And looking even at like the 2021 draft class, like we have a lot of premier wide receivers that hit early. Jamar Chase was a wide receiver 1 as a rookie. Jalen Waddle right in that wide receiver 12 overall range as a rookie. And then Devonta Smith, hit pretty early as well. Like didn't have a huge rookie season, but came on his sophomore year. Looking at the 2022 draft, though, it wasn't as slam dunk. We haven't seen it from Drake London as of yet, kind of been a wide receiver 3 thus far. We've seen the flashes from Chris Olave, kind of lived in that wide receiver 2 range. Same with Garrett Wilson, Jameson Williams. That's not looking like the greatest pick now. Jahan Dotson, Treylon Burks. That's really not looking like the greatest pick. So, Scott, looking back at the wide receivers, like we do have some generational talents here. It looks like Garrett Wilson in this 2022 class we're looking at now. In the class before, we had Chase, we had Smith, we had Waddle. And then in 2023, no one necessarily maybe in that first round that we could call generational yet, but we did have Puka Nacua in that class. We did have Rashee Rice, Tank Dell, and JSN, who we've yet to seen the best from. So something to keep in mind. We can't get too crazy with the wide receivers here. I
mean,
think
if you compare 2021 and 2022, it really shows you how much difference a good quarterback can make. Because I still think Drake London, Garrett Wilson, and Chris Olave are upper level wide receivers in the NFL. I don't put any of them past Jamar Chase.
Sure.
However, Jamar Chase went to Joe Burrow. Jalen Waddle went to Tua. Garrett Wilson went to, I'm not exactly sure what he went to. And then Aaron Rodgers got hurt. Drake London, well known his situation, historically low pass rate, and terrible quarterback. Chris Olave, not a great quarterback situation either. Really shows what a significant difference that can make. I mean, you can't blame it all on that, right? You can't just say, well, those three 2022 receivers are gonna ball out now that they have a quarterback. There's no guarantees. But I mean, just the drastic difference between those 2 consecutive draft years of wide receivers is pretty telling.
Well, and it just so happens this year that a lot of the wide receiver needy teams happen to be great quarterback driven teams, Eric. We have the Chargers who need someone with Justin Herbert. We have Kyler Murray. They need a wide receiver 1 in Arizona. Down the board, we could see the Bills making a splash in round 1. We could also see Kansas City and San Francisco. So at least one of the alluring things about this wide receiver class, Eric, while it is very deep, while it is a very good wide receiver class, maybe there's more optimism than in years past just because they could be going to star quarterbacks.
Yeah, there are several viable or promising landing spots for some of these talented wide receivers to go to. So I think that's part of what's unique about this 2024 setup, right? Not only do we have the talent, but there are only going to be a couple of them that just end up in the muck and mire of a terrible situation overall, right? So a lot of promise in terms of like immediate contribution from this year's crop, especially when you talk about the first rounders, right? Like the more I think about it, the more it's clear that I think there's a pretty big drop off after wide receiver 5 in this year's class. So those guys that are going in the first round, those first 5, I mean, every one of them is at least has the odds in their favor to land in a pretty good offense overall.
Absolutely. Any final takeaways from you, gentlemen, or we good to go ahead and jump into the mock draft?
Let's jump in.
No, let's get it.
Mount up.
All right, let's do it. Mount up here. Scott's calling it out. All right, we got the mock draft up here. Kyle's going to be running it for us. And I'll kick us off. I'll start us off with the chalkiest pick here. It's Caleb Williams going number 1 overall to the Bears. And look, they get their guy. He's been a huge favorite for months now to go number 1 overall. I love how they're surrounding him with a bunch of talent. We got Keenan Allen, Cole Kmet. Yes, I'm saying Cole Kmet is a talent nowadays. That come full circle in this program. And then also DJ Moore, DeAndre Swift. I really like what they're doing. A little bit sketchy with the head coaching situation. I would have rather seen them, I think, make a change just so we have more stability there for Caleb Williams long term. Either way, though, I mean, this guy has more talent than anything he is more talented at football than anything I am talented at in my life. I don't question he'll be a great quarterback. Do I have questions about his leadership ability and maybe his personality? And yes, maybe I do. But I think overall for fantasy football terms, he's going to be a locked and loaded high QB2 upside right away. Eric or Scott, you're on the clock here with pick number 2.
Yeah, pick number 2. I didn't rock the boat too much here. I went with my QB2 in this class, and that's Jayden Daniels, LSU, to the Washington Commanders. I think he would he's going to instantly upgrade that offense. He's going to instantly increase the stock for some of their skill position players. Maybe Jahan Dotson isn't quite dead yet. And I mean, there's debate between, there's not a lot of debate who's the QB1, but whether it's Jayden Daniels, Drake May, some people, for God's sakes, even have JJ McCarthy at number 2. But I think, Daniels, there's been somewhat unfair comparisons to Lamar Jackson. And I think the people that are making that comp aren't truly comparing him to Lamar Jackson, but they are in the sense that he's a dynamic runner. He showed that at LSU, and he's a much better passer than I think people give him credit for. And that's typically what happens when you've got a dynamic running quarterback. Is it's very easy just to assume they're not a very good passer. But this isn't 2016 anymore. There's quarterbacks out there that can do both, and I think he can. So, he's one of those high floor, high ceiling, probably a little bit of an increased bust rate potential down the road just because of his profile. But, I think the Commanders will finally have a quarterback, an upper echelon quarterback.
Okay. Jayden Daniels going off the board number 2. The odds moved back. There was some shakeup. JJ McCarthy's odds were getting a lot shorter for that second overall pick. So were Drake May's over the weekend. I was down in Maryland with Herms. I hammered the -120 on Jayden Daniels to go to Washington at pick number 2. So I'm loving it if that is the case, Scott. Eric, you're up with here pick number 3 and 4, my friend, 2 of the more fun picks of the draft.
Yeah, so far, pretty chalky. Both picks are ones that I would agree with. For the third pick, though, we're gonna throw a bit of a wrench in the plan here. We've got our first trade going down.
Trade alert!
Minnesota, the Vikings using both of their first round picks this year, that being 11 and 23, as well as their second round pick in 2025 to move up to the 3 spot with what was formerly the New England Patriots holding that spot, and they will be drafting Drake May, right? Minnesota has gone out and acquired these assets so that they can make a move like this. They feel like with the weapons around a potential rookie quarterback on the offensive side that, they need someone that can, bring a high caliber, very volume heavy downfield type of passing attack. And Drake May checks all those boxes, right? So there's still some rough edges in his game overall. I like Kevin O'Connell to help kind of smooth those out. And all told, I think New England makes this move because while they are quarterback needy, there are a few opportunities later for them to address that. But also they just have so many holes in their roster overall that being able to get 2 picks in the first round in this year's draft, they still have the 203, and then also add a second rounder next year. It feels like this one actually has some potential to come to pass. So I've got Minnesota moving up to draft Drake May in the 3 spot, and in the 4 spot, we're right back down the chalk boulevard.
Kyle, don't hit trade. Don't hit that.
I've got the Arizona Cardinals standing pat and drafting Marvin Harrison.
Hold on one second, Eric. Giving Kyle some direction here. Kyle, click the where it says Washington, make that New England. There you go. And then top pick for New England. There you go. All
Bingo.
right. My guy, here we go. We got Tootsie saying, I would love Drake May if he came to Minnesota. David Russell saying, I heard they draft punter. Yeah, I'm hearing they also could get in the mix.
Anything's possible.
Yeah, they could get in the mix for a punter there. Might need a kicker a little bit there as well. So let's go to pick number 4 here, Eric. So we have Jayden Daniels, Caleb Williams, Drake May, all 3 off the board. Arizona Cardinals are up here, Eric. What do they do at pick number 4?
Yeah, so like I mentioned, going right back to the chalk or the conventional wisdom here, I've got Arizona taking the first wide receiver off the board, that being Marvin Harrison Jr. Gets Kyler Murray, the elite weapon that has been largely kind of missing, at least in their prime, during his tenure as a Cardinal. And I mean, what can you really say about Marvin Harrison, right? Like the polish on his routes, his ability to create separation, his ability to attack the ball and catch with his hands, right? Like everything that you're looking for and more is exactly what you're getting in Marvin Harrison from a wide receiver standpoint. So I think, that is a phenomenal landing spot because there is that need and a plus passer in Kyler Murray. And I think it, really unlocks this Cardinals offense as soon as this year.
All right. So we got Marvin Harrison Jr. off the board at 4. Scott, where are we going with 5 and 6 here?
At 5, we are going to get the second receiver off the board, also to a great landing spot with a great quarterback. That's Malik Neighbors going to number 5 overall to the Los Angeles Chargers, and Justin Herbert, Jim Harbaugh. You could nitpick about Jim Harbaugh's track record, and maybe they won't pass it as much, but I mean, we're looking at landing spots here, and Justin Herbert, he's not quite to the level, I don't think, of Chase joining Joe Burrow, but it's close. And so I think it's just an ideal spot. They sold all their wide receivers. It seemed like over the offseason, they got rid of every single one of them, except Quentin Johnston and Joshua Palmer. So neighbors to LA. And then immediately following that, I struggled a little bit with this one just based on the New York Giants needs, but I'm staying right at the wide receiver position. A guy that I think the NFL, I don't think anybody on the NFL or fantasy side is putting Rome Odunze, number 6 from UW, going to the New York Giants. I don't think anybody's putting him up at number 1, but man, the NFL sure seems to like him. I really think, Neighbors and Harrison Jr. are in a tier by themselves, but man, he is as close as you can be to that tier with them. He's kind of in his own tier. Then there's another tier break after him.
Sure.
There's not really many red flags with the top 3 receivers in this class. There's just not a lot to complain about. And then you get into some concerns once you get past them. So the Odunze to the Giants, they also need a wide receiver, so they don't have 35 slot receivers. That's my pick.
Okay. Rome Odunze, he will be going to the New York Giants. And I love that pick, Scott, because we finally get to potentially see what is Daniel Jones, because he's never had an elite wide receiver. His wide receiver one at best was Kenny Golladay when they signed him for all that money, and they shouldn't have. So yeah, I'm excited to see what we can get out of Daniel Jones there with Rome Odunze in town. Right now, to catch you up on the first 6 picks of our mock draft, we have Caleb Williams going 1, Washington Commanders selecting Jayden Daniels at 2, the Minnesota Vikings trading up with the Patriots at 3 to take Drake May, Marvin Harrison Jr. off the board at 4, Malik Neighbors 5, and Rome Odunze, he makes it 3 wide receivers in a row at pick number 6. Tennessee Titans out at 7. This is the chalkiest pick on the board. The worst kept secret, minus 290 right now. For them to take an offensive lineman. So give them Joe Alt here from Notre Dame. They're going to pair him with fellow first rounder Peter Skoronski on the offensive line. Alt will play left tackle as Skoronski plays left guard. Their left side of their line is going to be elite here. And I think that's something we need to keep in mind for fantasy terms. If we want to target guys like Tony Pollard, if we want to target a guy maybe later, Tyjae Spears, they're going to have a good offensive line, at least on that left side. They're giving this offense a chance here. So I like that pick there for the Tennessee Titans. At number 8, big trade, baby. Big ballsy trade. Here we go. Sound the alarms. Trade alert, trade alert. Denver Broncos are trading up here with the Atlanta Falcons. They're going to be trading for that number 8 overall pick, and they're going to be giving out the 112 Cortland Sutton and a 2025 second round pick. We won't be able to add Sutton on the actual draft manager here that we're using on screen. But again, he's going for the 112 Cortland Sutton and 2025 second round pick for this 108 overall. And listen, like, he doesn't have to manage the entire or mortgage the entire future here to get up and get JJ McCarthy since he slid to 8. I don't think Sean Payton was willing to slide all his chips in to get up to 4 or to get to 3, but to make sure the Raiders don't jump up there, an in-division rival, and get McCarthy. I think Sean Payton will do this. Send Sutton to Atlanta, give them a legit wide receiver 2, and next year 2nd to move up 4 spots. And I think Denver's in a pretty good spot here. They don't have a lot of draft capital this draft still from some bad trades they've made in the past, but now they have JJ McCarthy under center. So Scott, I'm going to give it to you with pick 9, man. Oh, you're muted, Scott.
Chicago Bears on the clock at pick 9. I think they probably have their eyes set, at least according to a lot of the mocks I've seen, on Odunze if he was still around. But he is picked, and I don't think any of the receivers beyond those top 3 are top 10 talents. I think it would be a mistake to reach. So I'm going with the best edge rusher in the draft, in my opinion. Dallas Turner from Alabama goes to Chicago at 9. Another need of theirs. And then directly after them, the frisky Jets of New York with Aaron Rodgers returning.
Do it.
Go ahead and select the generational talent, the athletically gifted, regardless of whether he did athletic measurements, Brock Bowers, tight end from Georgia.
If you want my vote.
If Rodgers can stay healthy, that putting Bowers on that team with Garrett Wilson, Mike Williams, Breece Hall, I mean, it's an exciting team at that point. Very exciting team.
Guys, if you want to know my fucking NFL draft prop hammer of the week, it is Brock Bowers under 10.0. Right now, when I was down in Maryland, it was plus 135. I hammered it 2 units down on it. Eric, you don't like it. You don't like Bowers here to the frisky Jets, because you can also bet him directly to the Jets or for the Jets to take a tight end first, but that's like right around like plus 140, plus 150. In our mock, we do have him going to the Jets, which I'm very excited about. As a pseudo Jets fan, as a guy who has a lot of Aaron Rodgers and a lot of Jets on fantasy teams. But I just like him to go anywhere in the first 10. You seem to not be as high on Mr. Bowers, elite Brock Bowers.
So it's tricky because Brock Bowers is absolutely a top 10 prospect in this class. I don't think the economics of the rookie pay scale will support a team drafting a tight end inside of the top 10. Now, granted, it's the draft. It only takes one team falling in love, and all of our analysis is out the window. But as you were rattling through those various bets, I think the one that I would feel best about is Brock Bowers to the Jets, but not necessarily at 10, right? I think a lot of how the board has played out on tonight's show is how it'll play out, except for Denver moving up to 8 to draft McCarthy. I think they might actually move up to 10 with the Jets as they are trying to move back to 12 and save a little bit of money on that rookie pay scale, right? I just the value you're getting at that position, paying him as the 10th overall pick is minimal. It's actually kind of upside down, right? So, on merit, he should be inside the top 10. You can make an argument closer to the top 5, but with how the economics work out, I wouldn't be surprised if we see him actually fall like in that 12 to 15 range, right? Like the absolute backstop is the Colts at 15, whether it's the Colts drafting there or someone trading a spot or 2 ahead of them to get Bowers. But at 10, it's pricey, right? And I don't think we're going to see GMs, sign themselves up to be overpaying for a position like tight end quite yet. There'll be a few years where the pay scale flips and the franchise market resets, and maybe at that point, but not in 2024.
We can't ignore that the Falcons in their skill position turnstile are back at the tight end position. Tight end, receiver, running back. They're back at tight end. What if they take Brock Bowers at 8?
Stop.
Joke. It's a joke.
We got Mr. Scamper sounding the alarms for the big time trades. What's up, Mr. Scamper? It's good to see you. Thanks so much for joining us, man. We got D-Walk in the chat saying need lots of hot routes for the New York Jets. Then, yeah, hey man, Aaron Rodgers loves his hot routes. So does Nathaniel Hackett. So I think they'll be a-okay up there in New Jersey. All right. Eric, it is to you, my friend. You control the New England Patriots' future in your hands. You already didn't do well by their fans, didn't get their franchise quarterback at 3. You traded out. They're here on the clock at pick number 11. What do the Patriots do?
Yeah, so I get to reap what I have sown by conducting that trade at 3. And while we didn't get their quote unquote franchise quarterback as of yet, we will get a guy that can potentially protect whoever that quarterback may be for seasons to come, a decade plus. Going to have the Patriots take Olu Fashanu here, the tackle out of Penn State. I mean, this is as ready-made a tackle in this year's class, right? Like there are people that actually have him ahead of Joe Alt. So, his pass protection skill is some of the best that I've graded over the last handful of years. He is a fluid run blocker, right? Like he's a very versatile player in terms of his ability to switch between those two practices. And he can be that anchor that is very much so needed on this Patriots line. So obviously the quarterback is flashy and fun to talk about. It has a much bigger impact on those fantasy streets that we live in. But getting Olu Fashanu here in the 111 spot is going to really start rebuilding a foundation of protecting whoever the future quarterback may be.
All right, I like it. As a fellow Penn Stater myself, I'm happy about it, man. Atlanta Falcons on the clock at 12 now for you, Eric. We know they have Kirk Cousins. Do they try to add some other weapon for him? We've even heard a little bit of smoke that they like Michael Penix Jr. Do they make the move here for him?
Not in my book, no. Maybe if they do in fact like them, they could consider it later. But here at 12, or even honestly, if they stuck at 8, I think they'd be taking a long, hard look at Terry and Arnold. So that's who I'm going to have them select here at the 112. He is your classic kind of ball hawking cover corner. Really, really good in terms of how he positions himself. And at Atlanta, they've got a glaring need in their defensive secondary. So he can come in and immediately help them stay competitive on the defensive side of the ball to pair up with an offensive side that is projected to be much improved. So Atlanta is actually at a position where they can have a couple of their draft picks really move the needle in terms of their prospects for their record in 2024. And I think that starts with Terry and Arnold here at 12.
Our other co-host Hoove would be very happy if that is the selection. He has a couple units down on Terry and Arnold to be the first cornerback off the board. Still not the favorite, so still could be some value for Arnold if you agree with Eric's selection here at number 12 to the Falcons. I'm on the clock with the Raiders. I'm just going to do the safe thing. And at number 13, I'm going to go with Tylese Fuga. And aside from Colton Miller at left tackle, center Dylan Parham, the Raiders just don't have much on the offensive line. I like Fuega because not only can he play tackle, he can also push into guard. And I think that versatility will keep him out on the West Coast. At number 14 for the Saints, I will go J.C. Latham, another tackle, this one out of Alabama. And I think the Saints are one of the tougher picks in this class, guys, honestly, because when you think about them, like, do you go a Brian Thomas Jr. to pair with Chris Olave? They don't have a true number 2. We've seen, Rashid Shaheed in spurts. We've seen a little bit of A.T. Perry in spurts. And I thought about Brian Thomas Jr., but ultimately Ryan Ramczyk is their right tackle. He's 30. He missed 5 games last year, 7 in 2021. J.C. Latham can not only play left tackle, he can play right tackle, he can play guard. So I think he makes sense here. All the tackles going off the board, leaving you up some potential fun picks, Scott, at pick number 15, the Colts on the board.
Yeah, so I didn't realize as we were doing this that I definitely have a theme, probably because I'm a fantasy football guy, not necessarily a NFL position draft guy, but I've got the fourth wide receiver coming off the board, Brian Thomas Jr. from LSU going to the Indianapolis Colts. at 15. Serves a need they have. The Alec Pierce experiment, aka the Colts Gabriel Davis experiment, has not worked out, I don't think. I mean, Michael Pittman Jr. is a lock. I think Josh Downs is close to a lock as their slot guy. So I think a guy like Brian Thomas Jr. with Anthony Richardson and those two other guys would make a pretty lethal combo. I mean, like we were talking about, once you get past the top three, Brian Thomas Jr., he does have, he has a few concerns within his profile, but there's not many receivers that come through that don't. So he's not my wide receiver 4, but just as far as where this falls in the first round, the team need, that's where I'm going. And then right after that, gosh, I've heard it. He's a UW guy, and I've heard his name pronounced a couple different ways. But my Seahawks at 16, no, they're not trading for Michael Penix. Michael Penix is not a top 20 pick in the NFL, in my opinion. So they're going to use their UW connection for a different player, and that's Troy Fautanu, offensive tackle from UW. It might not be their biggest need, but I mean, he's one of the better offensive linemen in this draft. There is that connection with the University of Washington Huskies, so you can't have enough top 20 offensive tackles.
Okay, I like it. I'll do a quick recap before we get into the second half of the first round. Caleb Williams at 1, Jayden Daniels 2, Drake May 3, Marvin Harrison Jr. 4, Chargers 5 with Malik Neighbors, Roma Dunze at 6, Joe Alt 7, JJ McCarthy. The Denver Broncos trade up for him at number 8, Chicago Bears Dallas Turner at 9, Jets Brock Bowers 10, Olu Fashanu, he goes at 11, Terrion Arnold going at 12, 13 Talise Fuga, and then 14 JC Latham, and Brian Thomas Jr. at 15, and Troy Fautanu, whatever you want to. Sorry, terrible at that pronunciation, but he goes to Seattle here, stays up in the Pacific Northwest. Eric, you're up here with number 17 and 18, the Jacksonville Jaguars and the Bengals, who both regressed a bit in 2023.
They did, and for different reasons, right? Obviously, the Bengals were dealing with injury throughout, and Jacksonville just kind of underperformed. A big part of the reason why for the Jaguars was the performance of their defense. So I'm going to have them addressing that position here at number 17 overall, taking the second cornerback off the board, Quinion Mitchell, the corner out of Toledo. I believe, at least as of a few hours ago, he is, in fact, the odds-on favorite to be the first cornerback off the board. But with corners, so much of it has to do with technique and systems. So like how he fits into what they're doing there in Jacksonville, definitely has that kind of stronger, really vacuums up any yards after the catch, great tackler type of profiler. So like how he fits in for Jacksonville, a team that is woefully in need at that position. I think last time out, I was talking about them taking a wide receiver in the first round or with their first pick because wanted a bit of juice, but far and away the favorite for them is cornerback at -160. So looking for them to go with the best player at the position on the board, that is Quinion Mitchell. And at number 18, sticking on the defensive side, having the Bengals go with Byron Murphy, the defensive lineman out of the University of Texas. This is actually a guy that's getting a little bit of steam here lately. I'm hearing a few different pundits suggest that he's got a non-zero chance to be the first defensive player off the board on Thursday night's first round of the draft. So for him to be sitting here at the 18 spot for the Bengals, explosive pass rusher, just absolutely wrecks what the offensive line is trying to do. He's versatile. They can use him in a number of different spots, right? So I think Cincinnati would be real happy to see him sitting here when they have their name on the graphic at pick 18.
All right. I like it. Pick number 19. Listen, you can't tell me that Sean McVay's first pick with the Rams in the first round is not going to be an offensive player. Like that's kind of where my mindset has shifted since we spoke last week, boys. When I looked further, I was like, I don't know if I know everyone thinks they're going to replace Aaron Donald here with a defensive tackle, I think Sean McVay is going to go offense. So I think if you're still in a betting legal state for the draft, I would take a couple swings, maybe at an offensive lineman. I'm going to go with number 19 overall off the board, Tyler Guyton out of Oklahoma. A little bit more of a project than some of these other guys, but they can start replacing Andrew Whitworth, which he retired a couple years ago. They haven't fully replaced him yet. They can start stacking up on that offensive line. And at pick number 20, my first fun pick of the draft. Let's do it, boys. The Pittsburgh Steelers at number 20 overall select Cooper DeJean, cornerback, Iowa. And listen, I would have loved if Brian Thomas Jr. fell to the Lurs. I'm sure they would have as well. I would have loved if one of those top 5 tackles fell down to the Lurs. I think they would have as well. But DeJean just screams a Steeler to me. Comes from a blue-collar fucking place like Iowa. Out there, knows what it takes to make it out there in the cold. Can make some big hits, make some big plays, and also a weapon in the kickoff game. With these new roles in play, with the XFL-style kickoff coming to professional football, kickoffs are going to matter, man. And I think Cooper DeJean could be a weapon for a team that has not had a good kickoff returner in years. So I think Cooper, put him back there, man. We got Cooper back there. We got Joey Porter Jr. I think right now we're starting to build the secondary out. It's starting to look really good with Minkah Fitzpatrick in the back end as well. So yeah, give me a little Cooper DeJean here at pick number 20. Scott, your thoughts on DeJean heading to my Lurs and your picks with 21 and 22 as follows, please.
I like DeJean. I saw a few Seahawks pundits, and I mean, I don't know if this would make that much sense, talking about the Seahawks trading back later in the first round and
wow.
taking DeJean.
Witherspoon, Woolen, and wow, that'd be crazy.
I mean, fruits of plenty, but they have other issues. I'm actually after the spiel from Eric, I'm kind of kicking myself for not having the Seahawks taking Byron Murphy at number 16, but I think he's on the board there. I've seen him mocked to them as well. Another need for them. Anyway, moving on from the Seahawks, don't need to only talk about them. So for the Dolphins at number 21, this is a player. I'll be truth be told, I don't know as much about this player as some of the others. Jayden Newton, defensive lineman from Illinois. I honestly based this pick. I study a lot of mock drafts. I just kind of study positional needs, what the tea leaves are saying about positional needs. Mm-hmm. I use a lot of this website right here, mock draft database, to see kind of the winds are blowing, which teams seem to be going. And this seemed like a pretty popular landing spot for Mr. Newton from Illinois. And then number 23, number 22, Philadelphia Eagles. The betting odds seem to be a cornerback for them. And depending on whose lists you look at, I got them taking Nate Wiggins, cornerback from Clemson. I've got, depending on where you look, like I said, he's ranked ahead of some of these other cornerbacks that have already been taken. So I think, sure. I think the Eagles would be happy if he or DeJean were still there at 22.
All right. Eric, you're back up here. The New England Patriots, once again in your fate at pick number 23, you sneaky devil. Where do they go here? Are they finally going to address the quarterback position, my friend?
They are indirectly going to address the quarterback position by setting him up with a weapon that he will have at his disposal, and a weapon that New England hasn't had this caliber of player in several years. I'm going to have them go to the wide receiver well and draft A.D. Mitchell, a player that we were talking about backstage before the show. If Xavier Worthy didn't go out and break the 40-yard dash record, we would be going bananas about how fast Adonai Mitchell ran relative to his size and frame. So, a player that can come in and run a variety of different routes. He's really explosive off the stem. He can create separation, good hands. I guess the downside to him is, there were times, watching Texas tape where it seemed like he just kind of disappeared, right? I don't know if he was schemed out. I don't know if it was someone else's turn in the rotation. Don't know if he took his foot off the gas a little bit. But in terms of, raw skill set, I mean, he is and the archetype of an X receiver. I think New England can finally get this position right with A.D. Mitchell coming to them here in the 23 spot, the second pick that they got by trading out of 3 overall. And then I have everyone's favorite drafters and franchise, the Dallas Cowboys.
All in, baby.
A lot of speculation as to what they'll be doing in the draft. They are all in. Part of the way that they went all in this year is allowing 6 of their offensive linemen to walk out of the door over the course of the offseason. So I'll have
All
them
in.
address that issue. Have them go out and draft Amarius Mims, a tackle out of Georgia. Just absolute mountain of a man, 6'8", 340 pounds.
Woo,
He
big
is
boy.
a phenomenal pass protector, but he's also a plus run blocker, right? So like, there was a long time where Dallas really did a fantastic job of building their foundation inside out and through elite, if not top tier offensive line play. I think we see them, start to kind of replicate that strategy. And I think that starts with Amarius Mims coming to them in this spot.
Awesome. I'll recap the last 8 picks before we jump into the final picks of the draft. At number 17 here, we had Quinion Mitchell going to the Jaguars, Byron Murphy going off the board at 18 to the Bengals, Tyler Guyton, 19 of the Rams, 20 Steelers make a splash, Cooper DeJean, Jerzon Newton, he's going to go off the board, 21 overall, Nate Wiggins, 22, Adonai Mitchell at 23, and then Amarius Mims, he goes to the Cowboys at 24. 25, we have the Green Bay Packers on the clock, or do we? Trade alert, baby. Sound alarms, Mr. Scampers. Trade alarm, baby. Here we go. New England trading back in. The Patriots are trading with the Green Bay Packers. The Patriots will be giving up the 203, Minnesota's 2025 second round pick that they acquired, and New England's 6th round pick for this 125 overall pick. So excited to get New England back on the board here. And definitely some conjecture a little bit. Who should be this pick? Should it be somebody like Bo Nix, or should it be Michael Penix Jr.? To me, guys, I think Michael Penix Jr. is the safest quarterback prospect left on the board. There's still some concerns, of course, with his medicals and what that will mean. But listen, man, Bo Nix is kind of a check down artist here. And I don't think a check down artist is what New England needs. I think they need someone who can spread the field a little bit, especially now that they have actually a pretty decent receiving core in this world with Adonai Mitchell, Demario Douglas, and they also have like KJ Osborne, Juju. Like, it's not that bad. So I think Michael Penix Jr. getting traded here, or landing here would after this trade would be a really good spot for him. So we'll go ahead and make that trade there, and then we'll have Michael Penix Jr. come off the board. All right. Kyle's handling that. Kyle, you can finagle the trade if it won't let it go through. Yeah, all right. Yeah, go ahead. It technically had in Green Bay, but that's okay. All right. And Scott, you are back on the board here. Or actually, sorry, I'm still on the board with 26, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. We've had him follow the whole draft. Jared Verse, edge, Florida State. And I'll be honest, last week I was on the program, Eric, and I was saying how I wanted to get down to Maryland. And I wanted to hammer the under on his prop total for about 15.5. However, when I got to Maryland, I couldn't find that prop. One, it wasn't available in a lot of the books I was able to get down there. And it's just hard to find Jared Verse a home here without a lot of teams needing great pass rushers early in this draft. This is kind of a luxury pick for Tampa Bay. They did draft Logan Hall in the second round 2 years ago, but he has just 3 sacks in 2 seasons. So I think they're looking for an upgrade here in Jared Verse, edge from Florida State. It looks like we got Tyler in the chat hanging out with us from the Fantasy Football Advice Network. What's up, Tyler? Good to see you, man. We appreciate their support as always. And Scott, you're back up here. 27, Arizona Cardinals, 28. These could be fun picks, Scott. You gonna make them fun, man? What do we got, man?
They're fun for me, and I'll tell you why. So the Cardinals are up at 27. They already landed Marvin Harrison Jr., franchise linchpin wide receiver. And so now I think one of the position groups on their areas of need is cornerback. And I'm going with, the reason it's fun is because it's probably the best name of this draft. And that's Kool-Aid McKinstry out of Alabama. Cornerback. Again, this is also a player I don't know a whole lot about. This was more based on the kind of the need after they took Harrison at 4. And this, I mean, I'll be honest, his name played a little bit of a part of it because it's such a cool name. But for seriously, he's the best cornerback left on the board. So he goes 27 to the Cardinals, and then 28, one of my favorite picks of the first round, keeping with my wide receiver theme, a wide receiver I personally would be taking over AD Mitchell. With the Buffalo Bills, definitely, many mock drafts have them taking a wide receiver. They need a wide receiver. Stephon Diggs is out of town.
Oh, yeah.
The receiver I'm mocking to them is not necessarily the archetype they probably, the most ideal archetype, but it's Xavier Worthy from University of Texas, the speedster. I think you put him with Josh Allen, especially Josh Allen's ability to extend plays. Yes, he ran the fastest 40 time, but all the comps out there to all the other people that have run fast 40 times are just lazy. He also has the production profile to go with it. His biggest red flag, he had a breakout age of 18. He had a stellar freshman year. One of his red flags is that was his best year. He didn't necessarily improve, but you're kind of nitpicking there. He also had some pretty good competition when AD Mitchell joined Texas. So I think he's easily the best. Well, not easily. There's another receiver that's going to potentially go in this round that I have right there with Xavier Worthy. But I think Xavier Worthy in Buffalo is going to be so much fun.
Scott, you said that when I believe it was when Brian Robinson went off the board, Brian Thomas, excuse me, to Indianapolis, that he was not your fourth wide receiver. Is that Xavier Worthy? Is he your wide receiver 4?
Yes.
Lovely. There's actually some reporting that Indianapolis might have some interest in him at 15. So you've got the wins at your back here, Scott.
That would justify it.
All right. Yeah. And Scott's even got some love in the chat here. Andrea's saying she likes that pick. Xavier Worthy going to the Bills. I got a lot of Worthy on a lot of best ball teams, so I would like it as well, Scott. And D-Walk saying he loves the Arizona going wide receiver and corner in round 1. Let them battle in camp all year round and push each other. Yeah, man, seeing Marvin Harrison Jr. battle Kool-Aid in camp would be great. So like the picks a lot there, Scott. Looks like the chat does as well, my friend. Eric, please, man, take us home. We got 29 and 30 before I round us out with 31 and 32.
Yeah, so 29 and 30, aka our conference championship losers. The Detroit Lions at number 29. Gonna attack the defensive side of the ball here. Gonna go with Liatu Latu, the edge out of UCLA. Detroit went out and they added a handful of defensive linemen and edges by way of free agency, but guys that are a little bit longer in the tooth. I think with Liatu Latu, he can be that kind of next generation to run alongside Aiden Hutchinson for years to come. And he is a technician on the pass rush, right? Like there are so many things to where he wins in the margins, right? Like, he's a slippery pass rusher. He beats his blocks. He's just absolutely wreaking havoc in the pocket and in the quarterback's face every time that you turn on the tape. So I think that Detroit would jump up and feel pretty good about the pairing of Latu and Hutchinson for the next 5 to 10 years plus. And then I'll stick with edges here. I'm gonna go at Scott saying that Kool-Aid McKinstry is the best name in the draft. I'll see you that, and I'll raise you Chop Robinson. Penn State edge rusher got him going to the Baltimore Ravens. Like,
oh no! He's named after
another year, another just like slam dunk draft pick for the Baltimore Ravens. It seems like this is just their MO. There's always someone that is falling a little bit too far or is incredibly athletic and talented and just a little bit raw. That is very much so the case with Robinson, right? Like his ability to get off and get around the edge is a huge disruption. And you think about the way that historically this Ravens defense has been able to maximize the skill set of the players they have. And the idea of Chop Robinson being maximized in Baltimore is the stuff that Super Bowls are made of, right? Like if they add him and he gets to his ceiling, they are right back in that Super Bowl contention conversation this year.
As both a Penn State fan and a Steelers fan, I hate you, Eric. Thank you.
Yeah, buddy.
And we do have Mr. Scamper saying, and I did want to bring this up too. I can't see a word where Latu is on the board this long. The talent's there. The talent. I mean, he could be a top 10 pick with the talent.
Yeah.
It's the medicals, right, Eric? Like that's why for me, why I couldn't find a place. One, it was hard to find a place for any of these edges in this class, as we kind of talked about with Jared Verse a little bit.
Yeah,
that's the thing.
And also the medicals too, man. Like I just think there's, for a guy who had to medically retire at one point, there's just some concern there.
Yeah, the medicals certainly hurt there, especially in the context of expending first round draft capital. But I think the more poignant point is the one that you made with Verse, right? And part of the reason why it's hard to find a line on Jared Verse and why we have him going as far down the board as we did is just there aren't a whole lot of teams that are looking to address edge in the early to middle part of this draft, right? Like we talk about Latu, we talk about Verse. You could absolutely see a world where they are swapped out with Dallas Turner at 9, right? they have the skill set to justify that, but just based on how the board unfolds, there aren't really a whole lot of landing spots where you see edges coming off between picks 10 and 25, give or take, right? So just there's a ton of variance in terms of where they land, but from like a prospecting and skill set standpoint, they're absolutely guys that would be considered pretty close to the top 10 in most years' draft classes.
Mr. Scamper's all saying, I'd raise your Chop Robinson with a Moose Muhammad. Yeah, hopefully Moose makes a team, man, because that is a great name, man. I'll round us out here with picks 31 and 32. Pick number 31, San Francisco 49ers. I think they're going to shake it up this year. Go with Ladd McConkey. They haven't had a first-round pick in a little bit. They need a wide receiver here. And this is a technician of this year's class, guys. And he's going to be in the arms of the best signal caller in the game. And too many times down the stretch where the 49ers were relying on Trent Sherfield to step up. And to Sherfield's credit, like he stepped up a lot in the playoffs. He looked like a manimal at times, man. But like you can't depend on Sherfield to always make those catches. So I think add McConkey here to hopefully salvage a relationship with Ayuk at the same time. If they can bring back Ayuk at least for one more year here, they'll have Ayuk, McConkey, McCaffrey, Debo, and Kittle. Like they could be unstoppable, and I think that could get them over the edge here. I like Ladd McConkey going there. Also, I like the Kansas City Chiefs rounding out the first round here with Troy Franklin, the wide receiver out of Oregon. And like you kind of feel like they're settling with Troy Franklin a little bit now that you've heard so much hype out of McConkey. But yeah, you're absolutely right, Scott. Like this is a field stretcher, nearly 1,400 yards last year, average 17.1 yards per wide receiver. That's something the Chiefs do not have right now since letting MVS go. I think he'd be a really good flanker if Rashee Rice is going to be out there playing the X role, maybe play a little slot. But I think right now that Troy Franklin could fit into that short intermediate role and also open up the field with Hollywood Brown down it. So all of a sudden, man, the Chiefs wide receiver corps, they would add Troy Franklin to Hollywood Brown and Rashee Rice. Looking a lot better, Scott.
This is probably my favorite pick is Troy Franklin making it to KC. Well, I mean, rookie wide receiver rankings from 4 to 8, they're all over the map, right? They're all over the map. But I mean, I have Troy Franklin ahead of McConkey. I have Troy Franklin ahead of A.D. Mitchell. So I've got him, I've got a tier of like Worthy, Brian Thomas Jr., and Troy Franklin right there at that spot. So I would love to see him playing with Patrick Mahomes. And I'm somewhat biased because I saw more of Troy Franklin watching. Yeah. I don't watch a lot of film, but I watched Troy Franklin. Dude's a baller, not quite at Odunze's level, but he was, at least on the Oregon side, the best player on the field. So yeah, I love that pick. I think he was talking about the Niners.
Okay. Yeah. Their offensive line is definitely getting old. Players Club. You're 100% on with that comment. I'll just say that it seems like there's a tier down in offensive linemen while they're still like in the, if you want to call it the A-, the B+ tier wide receivers. That's the only reason I make that pick. I'll go through these picks and we'll round it out. Kool-Aid McKinstry, Jared Verse off the board at 26, 27 Kool-Aid McKinstry, Xavier Worthy 28, 29 Latu, number 30 Chop Robinson, 31 Ladd McConkey, and 32 Troy Franklin. And that's going to do it for our first round mock draft, guys. Let us know in the chat your thoughts on it. Where did we do well? Where did we not do so well? Hooves 3.0 mock draft also available on the NFL mock draft database and the IBT website as well. So make sure you're checking that out. And make sure you guys are subscribed to the channel. We have who's out there in Detroit. He's keeping the head on a swivel. He's getting us some content. And then also we'll be out with our NASCAR team in Dover this weekend. So we got a lot of live content, a lot of clips we're going to cut up and put on the channel for you guys. Thank you so much for everything you guys do here for us. We really, really appreciate it.
I'm talking to D-Walk in the chat.
Yeah, D-Walk asking how many round 1 wide receivers? 8. I did smash the over. The line is 6.5.
I
like the under.
I selected 5 of them myself.
Oh, you son of a gun. Mr. Scampers, we appreciate this. Andrea, thank you so much for weighing in. D-Walk, thank you as well. Guys, easiest way to support us, subscribe here to the channel if you aren't already, and then head over to the website, inbetweenmedia.com. We got a lot of great written content for you. You can find us across all the social medias as well. You can find us on our personal social medias. Eric is at FantasyNav. I am at between_SethFF. Scott is at MunderDifflinFF, baby. Guys, thank you. It's been a pleasure. I can't wait to see how much we are wrong here next week this time.
Yeah.
All right. We will take care. Everyone be safe out there. Enjoy your draft weekend. And until next time, y'all know what to do. Keep it in between. Thank you.